Most junior HRSD developers think the path to becoming an architect is simple. Learn more ServiceNow, get more certifications, master more scripts, flows, more modules, more integrations, and all of that helps. But it is not the real difference, because you can know how to build almost anything in ServiceNow and still make a decision that hurts the platform for years. The real separation happens in a much smaller moment. An HR stakeholder says, "We just need one small customization." A junior developer hears a task, maybe a new form, a flow, or integration. An architect hears something completely different. They hear a future upgrade problem, another exception, a security question. They hear a process that might not scale outside of one country, HR team, or one employee group. Before they build anything, they ask one question: what problem are we really trying to solve? That is the mindset shift. Junior developers focus on delivering the request. Architects focus on protecting the system while delivering the outcome. Welcome back to Cloud CTW. If you're new here, this channel is all about helping you build ServiceNow skills that scale. And in this video, I want to show you 5 mindset shifts that will help you start thinking like an HRSD architect. Mindset shift number 1. Think beyond today's feature. Let me ask you a question. When someone assigns you a new HRSD story, what's the first thing you think about? For most developers, it's something like, how am I going to build this? And honestly, that's exactly where your mind should go when you're learning. That's how you become a better developer. You learn scripting. You learn flow designer. You figure out HR services, record producers, integrations, and security. You build confidence by building solutions. But at some point, something changes. You stop thinking only about the work that's in front of you. You start thinking about what happens after it's deployed. I remember getting to that point in my own career. I realized that finishing the story wasn't really the finish line. It was the beginning. Because once something goes live, it has a life of its own. The business changes, policies change, someone acquires another company, a new country comes online. Suddenly, the solution that looked perfect 6 months ago has to adapt. And that's when you discover whether you built a feature or whether you built something that can actually evolve. That's one of the biggest mindset shifts you'll make as you move toward architecture. Developers naturally focus on delivering the request. Architects focus on what that request becomes over time. Here's a simple example. Imagine you're asked to build a new parental leave service. A developer might think, okay, I need a record producer, a workflow, approvals, notifications, and a few integrations. An architect is asking a different set of questions. What happens when another country wants this? Will HR need different policies next year? Are we creating something that's easy to extend, or something we'll end up cloning 5 more times? Notice the difference. They're not thinking further because they're smarter. They're thinking further because they've seen what happens when nobody does. And that's really what architecture is. It's not predicting the future perfectly, it's making decisions today that give the platform room to grow tomorrow. So here's the shift I'd like you to make. The next time someone hands you a story, don't stop after asking, what do I need to build? Ask one more question. If this works exactly as expected, what happens next? That question changes your perspective. Because success isn't just delivering a feature. Success is delivering something the platform can continue to support, extend, and evolve long after the project is over. That's when you stop thinking like someone who's completing stories and start thinking like someone who's shaping a platform. Mindset shift number 2. Challenge the proposed solution. Here is something I wish somebody had told me much earlier in my career. Most requirements are not actually requirements, they're proposed solutions. And if you're early in your HRSD career, this is one of the easiest traps to fall into. Someone from HR comes to you and says, we need 11 different HR services because every country handles parental leave differently. Now, if you're like most developers, your brain immediately jumps to implementation mode. 11 services and record producers with 11 workflows. Let's figure out how we're going to build this. But I want you to pause for a second. Because this is one of those moments where architect thinking starts. If I were sitting next to you in a workshop and you told me that requirement, the first thing I'd ask is, are we sure that's the problem? Think about it. The request is 11 services. But what's the actual problem? Is it that policies are different? Or that routing is different? Or maybe it's that nobody has taken the time to separate what is truly unique from what is actually the same. Because those are very different conversations. And this is where I see a lot of developers accidentally create complexity. Not because they made a bad technical decision, but because they accepted the proposed solution before understanding the business outcome. So the next time someone gives you a requirement, try this. Before you think about ServiceNow configurations, ask yourself, what problem are we solving for? That question alone will put you ahead of most developers. Because architects don't start with the requested solution. They start with the underlying outcome. And once you start doing that, you'll be surprised how many requirements suddenly turn into much simpler conversations. Mindset shift number 3. Understand the lifetime cost. Building something is only the first cost. The second cost is the one that stays with you. Testing, documentation, support, upgrades, and troubleshooting. Explaining why something was built 3 years ago after the original developer has moved on. That's why experienced ServiceNow architects often say, configure first. Integrate when necessary. Customize last. Not because customization is bad, but because every customization has a lifetime cost. Sometimes customization is absolutely the right answer. Maybe it creates a dramatically better employee experience. Maybe it's required for legal or regulatory compliance. Those are good reasons. The important question isn't, can we build it? It's, does the business value justify the long-term complexity? If the answer is yes, customize it. Just make sure it was a deliberate decision, not the default one. Mindset shift number 4. Start thinking in blast radius. Here's a simple test. When someone gives you a new HRSD request, how far do you look? Just the form? How about the HR service and the flow? Or maybe everything that change might affect? Architects think in blast radius. They know small changes often have much bigger consequences. Imagine someone says, when an employee changes managers, we need a new HR notification. A developer starts designing the notification. An architect starts asking questions. Where does the manager data come from? What happens if HR data arrives late or is not there? Who then receives the notification? Does this work across every country? Could sensitive information be exposed? Notice something. The notification was the visible part of a much larger system. Architects don't just design the happy path, they design the failure path. Because enterprise systems eventually fail somewhere. The people who think about those failures before go live become the people everyone trusts afterward. Mindset shift number 5. Communicate decisions, not just solutions. A lot of junior developers think architects are the people who always know the answer. That's not what makes them valuable. The best architects help everyone else understand the decision. Their conversations sound like this. Here are our options. Here's what each one gives us. Here's what each one costs. And based on that, here's my recommendation. Architecture isn't just making technical decisions. It's helping business leaders, HR operations, security teams, developers, and platform owners understand the trade-offs behind those decisions. Sometimes that also means saying no. Not a dismissive no, a thoughtful one. I understand the outcome you're trying to achieve. I just don't believe this implementation gets us there without creating a bigger problem. Those conversations aren't always easy. But good architecture isn't about avoiding difficult conversations. It's about making good decisions and helping others understand why they matter. Sometimes your biggest contribution isn't building something new. It's preventing the wrong thing from becoming part of the platform in the first place. You don't need the title of architect before you can start thinking like one. You can start with your very next story. Habit 1. Write the outcome before the solution. Before designing anything, write one sentence. The business outcome is. That forces you to separate the goal from the proposed solution. Habit 2. Ask 5 questions. Before starting development work, ask, what problem are we solving? Who is affected? What can we reuse? What systems or data does this touch? What will this cost us to maintain 6 months from now? Habit 3. Diagram the system. Draw the employee, HR, ServiceNow, source systems, ownership, any other components. You don't need a polished architecture diagram. You just need to see the dependencies before they surprise you. Habit 4. Present options. When someone brings you a difficult request, don't return with one answer. Return with two. One that's fast and one that scales. Explain the trade-offs and then make your recommendation. That's when people start seeing you as someone who helps teams make better decisions. The difference between a junior developer and an architect isn't that one knows more ServiceNow. It's that one is focused on today's implementation. The other is already thinking about tomorrow. Every decision either makes the platform easier to evolve or harder to change. If you're building HRSD and want to create solutions that scale instead of creating future problems, subscribe to Cloud CTW.